Stop the world. I want to get off. Now, I have my name is John Conrad Kleinbauer. My grandfather's name was Conrad John Kleinbauer, as I was told. But my grandmother didn't like the name Conrad because Germans would call you Kuhn. So my father got named John Conrad Kleinbauer. I was named after him. So every once in a while, I go digging through the internet, and my dad was born in Vanling, Pennsylvania. I think it's Archibald County, and he'd tell me different stories. And we'd be in the car, and my mother would start telling this story. Your grandfather or somebody was out in a boat with the butler. We never had a butler, and the guy fell in a foot of water and drowned. And your grandfather, or whoever it was, didn't know how to swim. The whole story. It didn't make any sense to me as a kid, but they had to tell me something. Something was going on. So one day I'm searching, and I find this article. I'm going to put it in the link. Hopefully you can read it. Hopefully they don't ask you to subscribe or something. But in other words, you can read it and read into it whatever you want. I think this John Nasby was his brother-in-law that drowned, because my grandmother's maiden name was Wellington Nasby. But anyway, you got to read this. This is my grandfather in the boat with this guy. Guy is overcome by fumes. If you believe that story, he falls in the water, and my grandfather rows to shore and sounds the alarm. That sounds like something my father would do. In other words, if I'm in the boat, I'm trying to handle the guy a paddle. I'm trying to grab onto him. And some people say, you never grab onto someone that's drowning. They'll pull you under. That was one of my father's sayings. Never grab onto a drowning man, because he'll drown you. Do you know how to save someone that's drowning? Okay, no, here's one of those stories. I know how to do it because a kid that used to come use my swimming pool all the time. I won't say his name, but he went through the course, and he showed me it real quick. You basically grab the guy from behind around the neck, and you float on your back. Of course, if he keeps fighting you, let him drown. But he showed me, he says, it's real simple. I could float really well. But anyway, my father had a different way of doing everything. He had great stories after it was over. One time, my sister was walking the dog, and she was attacked by a Saint Bernard. And I was in bed, and I start hearing my sister's voice screaming. And my father's sitting in the kitchen. He's all nervous. I ran down. I put my sneakers on. He goes, "What are you going to do?" I'm going to go out there. "Oh, you're being a brute." He couldn't bring himself to go out there and help his daughter that's being attacked by a Saint Bernard when she's with her dog. But he's yelling all these profanities and that. Put my shoes on. I went running up there. And believe it or not, a friend of my father's that he worked with, Elmer Anthony, he came out with a big 2x4, and he was able to separate the two dogs. And the dog wasn't attacking my sister. He was attacking her stupid dog. And I went up, and Elmer said to me, your sister went up. My sister was there. She went home crying. She was okay. And I went looking for the dopey dog. I finally got him. But my father, he didn't even call the police. He just got so nervous he couldn't do nothing. And I sort of reading this article. This is my grandfather. I'm starting to notice the difference. You know, what this guy did, the grandfather, is basically what my father would have done. You never touch a drowning man; he'll pull you under. Yeah, will he? Well, what? How do lifeguards save people? Oh, you think you know everything? You got to try. And I made it to 73. Did I ever save anybody from drowning? Absolutely. I told you a story once before. This kid's out and he's in a sandbox, a plastic sandbox. Him and a little girl. They're in a bigger pool, and they're floating around. And they kept paddling out to the center because the one little boy didn't want to go home. So finally, the sister got so annoyed, she finally got a hold of the sandbox, the plastic sandbox that's floating in the pool, and she pushed it down to sink it. When she did, she slipped the side of the pool. The whole pool opened up immediately, and the little boy and the little girl were sucked down between the liner and the outer rim. The outer rim of the pool. And I reached over to pull them back up so they wouldn't go down under between the cement, the rim of the pool, and the liner. And as I did that, the two of them ran over the top of me like I was a freaking. They ran over me like they were monkeys. They had extra adrenaline. They went right over the top of me. Now I'm falling in head first into the giant whirlpool that's being formed by the pool opening up. You've probably seen it on YouTube where someone does something to the liner and it's just immediate, and that's what it was. So when the guy come out and it flooded the cellar, and he's screaming at me, and I'm trying to tell him, he wouldn't listen to me. I just walked away. And then finally, after 3 days, that girl had the decency to go over and say, John didn't do it. He saved the two little kids. Guess what I got for a reward? I got to see the pool being filled back up. That was the reward. Yeah, I got a great neighborhood. I wasn't in the paper. It didn't say John saved two little kids. No, it wasn't in the paper. I got yelled at, though. Hit the road, man. Hit the road. That's what the old man, hit the road. Get out of here. Hit the road. Trying to tell him what happened. I had nothing to do with it. Oh, of course, I saved this little girl. I saved the little boy from being pulled down through there. No. So I want you to enjoy this. You read it. I hope the link works to it. Yes, I did save somebody. I saved somebody in the hospital. The guy was severely diabetic, and he was throwing up. And the guy that tells you, the dietitian screwed up and gave him Sprite to drink so he wouldn't throw up, and it was causing his numbers. Sprite is real sugary, and instead they thought the guy was in runaway. In other words, he was going to die. And they pulled me into the room. I had bleeding a colon tumor, and I'm in the room. And I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, you're diabetic? Yeah, he says, it's over with for me. I said, you're drinking Sprite. Yeah, that's why I won't throw up. I said, Sprite is so sugary, you can't believe it. I said, stop drinking this Sprite. And I said, what's the other problem? He says, I got this really bad chest pain. And he had a pig valve. I said, just start drinking water. And I'm laying there, I'm dying, I'm bleeding to death. And they're gonna try, they tried ulcer medicine on me and to stop my bleeding. So I'm laying there, and this guy lets out this big belch, and now the gas pain's gone. So he went in there with the constant throwing up. They told him if he had any problem, they screwed up on him once before, and he had a pig valve in his heart. And anytime he gets sick or anything, he had to be in the hospital. But the dietitian gave him Sprite. He's drinking Sprite, and Sprite's real gassy, too. So I saved him. So then the doctor comes in the next day with the dietitian, and he goes, I want you to thank this man for saving that man's life. I'm like, oh, no, don't do this to me. Yeah, he did it to me. I stood there taking, but anyway, back to the, hopefully you can see the article. I emailed my cousin, and I told him the story about the butler and all that. My parents used to make up these stories, and they never tell me the real story. And my cousin, he got the real stories. His parents didn't lie to him. So, I'm telling him the story, and he's like, what did you... Yeah, and I know that the one uncle caught me saying that my grandfather broke his leg coming out of a whorehouse. I believe that. I believe that story now after talking to the cousin. I was lied to a lot by people. But anyway, read this article. It's my grandfather with his, I think it's his brother-in-law. Yeah, Niasby would be his wife's brother, cousin, whatever, same, very rare name. Niasby. He tells the story about the guy and him drowning. And read the story. That's my grandfather now. I want you to enjoy the story. I think that's it. That's it for now.